Welcome to Excel Simplified. Today we're going to keep talking about VLOOKUP formulas, but we're going to focus on the difference between a false and a true range lookup in our VLOOKUP formula. And so we can see in column G the formula that we created in our last video, and I'll include a link if you want to go look at that. But we were looking up the department code in column F and finding the department name on our department listing tab. And we can see in this original formula in column G that we were using a false range lookup. But I've also made a copy of this formula in column H. And it's the same formula except that we have a true range lookup instead of a false range lookup, like in the original formula. And so at first glance, there is no apparent difference between a true and false range lookup because we have the exact same results. However, if we had started with a different table array set of data, we would get very different results. So if we come over here to our department listing and pretend like maybe we received a list of the department codes and names from someone else, and maybe they ran the wrong report and we got an incomplete list, or maybe we ran that incomplete list ourselves by selecting the wrong report from our system. And so let's say department 103, which is the IT department, was actually not in the listing. So now let's come back and go to our employee information list, and now we can see that in our exact match column, column G, where we have a false range lookup, we have NAs for all of the department 103s. And that's because Excel can't find an exact match for department 103. However, in column H, where we have the true range lookup, we can see that we're getting a value of HR for department 103, which is also the same value that we have for department 102. And the reason we're getting the same value for both of those department codes is because Excel is going to our table array and finding where department 103 should be at. So if it were there, it would be between 102 and 104. And so Excel is finding where that value would show up at and then returning the value immediately above it. In this case, that's the HR department. So that's why we have the same value returned for department codes 102 and 103. And so this is obviously an example where we would not want to use a true range lookup because it's giving us bad results. However, there are some instances where it makes more sense. So if we come over here to the Employee Hourly Rates tab, we can see again a list of employees. And in column G, we have their hourly rates. So for example, our first employee has an hourly rate of $21.09. So if we come over to our list of pay grades, which are mutually exclusive, so there's no overlap, and we look for 2109, we're not going to find that value in columns A or B. But with our range lookup of true, Excel will look for where that value would fall in our column A. And so for example here, it would fall between rows 4 and 5, and it'll return the value immediately above it. And in this case, that's our pay grade of C, which is $20.01 to $25. So that will get us the right result. So let's go ahead and create our VLOOKUP formula using our true range lookup. We'll type equals VLOOKUP, open parenthesis, and then our hourly rate for our first employee, which is in cell G2, and a comma. And then we'll select our table array, which is on the pay grades tab in columns A, B, and C. And then we'll type a comma. And then our column index number will be the pay grade that is in our table array. So that's the third column, so we'll type a 3 and then a comma, and then finally we'll type our range lookup, which in this case we're going to use true, and close parenthesis, and then we'll hit enter. And so now we can see that we are in fact calculating that pay grade of C for the hourly rate of $21.09. So let's go ahead and drag this formula down for all of our other employees. And so we can see here some other values that are between $20.01 and $25, and they're also reflecting a pay grade of C. And so if this were a real world scenario, I would highly recommend that you go through and double check some of these other values, because anytime we're using a new formula, it's always good to double check and make sure things are working as expected and that we didn't have any typos in our formula. However, I would like to point out one more thing before we finish the video, and that's if we had our data formatted or sorted differently in our table array, it could also cause us problems. And so we can see right now that column A, which is what we're matching against our lookup value, is sorted in ascending order. So we have the lowest value first and the highest value last. However, if we sorted this to descending order, and then we come back to our list of employees, we can see that we have several error messages and we also have invalid values. So for example here, $29.06 is actually not in pay grade A, as we can see on our pay grades tab. So it's very important when you're using a true range lookup to also be sure that your table array is sorted with the column containing your lookup value in ascending order. So I hope you found this helpful. Subscribe, comment below if you have any other topics you'd like to hear us talk about, and have a great day.